Our resident Learjet Gamer Girl metatuber finally getting an upgrade that changes not just her appearance and her personal quality of life, but also vastly changing how she behaves on the battlefield. It is FJK01 Lealila 2, with the kit of Kernel, Tornado, Suction, Float Legs, and the leg ability of Holy Grace, which buffs all leg stats minus armor and heavy limit for every positive buff applied to self. Now, as a direct model of the earlier design of just basically Lealila, this one is absolutely designed for much better ease of life and quality of life, especially given the fact that she not only has properly proportioned arms, but also hands. And let's also talk for a moment and gush about the adorableness of the hoodie design that they also granted her with this one, which I feel will make those game streams that she holds every once in a while much more so comfortable than before. But all the same, on the field, she has a very vastly different kit than what she sported before, which of course will also equally change how she behaves and just what kind of roles that she can serve. Kernel is a brand new skill and a support skill being introduced into the game that simply applied will apply a stack of Conceal to all allies and herself, which will negate pierce damage or AoE damage for one blow, and also massively buff their evade, which means they are more likely to dodge or graze without actually taking the full blow. In addition to this, Kernel will also grant a stack of stealth to Lealila herself, which will allow her to bypass any and all shields or defensive maneuvers that are in play and attack exactly who she wants entirely unhindered. This also makes her untouchable until her next turn, unless she's already being targeted by someone else when she was already getting ready to cast it. Tornado is a paralyzed ailment and a more unique of the three in my personal opinion. That, simply put, it will envelop the foe in a tornado that will also make them airborne for a short amount of time. Now, even though Tornado also does have the lowest durability of all of the paralyzed ailments compared to, say, Thunder or Freeze, Tornado also grants a secondary weakness to the afflicted target. Not only are they incapable of dodging or defending, but it also makes them fully weak to an anti-air attack with the same punishment and weakness, which means this can be capitalized on very easily, not just for stun locking, but punish stun locking no less, especially since Thunder Freeze stacking was also banned and patched out a pretty fair amount of time ago. Suction, on the other hand, is a little different in the sense that instead of suspending the targets where they lie, it will instead pull the target all the way back to the center line, effectively stalling their cooldown phase if you can time it right. If mistimed, however, it does mean that she will accidentally accelerate the foe's heat time, and basically guarantee that they take their next turn no matter who comes in line next, because they are pulling them to the center line. So if timed right, it can be an absolute menace to society. If not, it can honestly spell your doom very quickly. Float Legs, very akin to what she had before, means that Leah 2 will have very solid coverage on pretty much any terrain and all terrains, no questions asked. And the Holy Grace ability will honestly says that she's trading a little bit of her overall speed for a little bit better overall coverage across the board. And touching on her coverage as well, with HP at about 3,000 for the head, about 2,900 per arm, and about 3,250 for the legs, she unfortunately is not packing a lot of armor, which means she is going to be a little squishy on the battlefield if you choose to use her or any of her parts. Her base power is not super high either, but given that they are designed to be ailment or stalling tactics, damage is something Leah 2 honestly does not bother with nor care about. Her leg mobility at 845 is really good though, definitely upper tier for where float legs are expected to be. An evade of 1169 is very good too, which means that she will have a relatively easier time dodging or grazing a lot of things so that she can try to keep damage as low as possible. Unfortunately, however, that's kind of where the praise ends, because with a melee resist of 553 and a shoot resist of 625 means that any hits that do land are going to be moderately painful, if not outright break her within 1 or 2 turns. This does mean that some caution will be best recommended and advised if you are going to use Leah 2 somewhere on the team, or even use any of her parts at all. Now, to her benefit, however, it is actually worth noting that the Holy Grace ability will comp this to a point, as long as she can keep a positive buffs active on herself, or someone can do that for her. So say if you can get 3 or 4 positive buffs in play, these stats will be going up tremendously and make her just a little more resilient on the field so she can last longer and keep doing her thing. As a pure set score, I do have to rate her a pretty solid 6.5 out of 10. She does have the specs to be able to hold her own as a possible staller, but by herself, damage is definitely not her strong suit. And of course, specializing in ailments like this does mean that anyone with stat cleanse can very easily negate any kind of intent that she has to offer when it comes to stalling or even suspending enemies in midair. But of course, this can be somewhat curbed thanks to Kernel granting an effect of stealth to herself, just in case any shields decide to get in her way. And even though her leg stats for melee and shoot resist aren't super high, the Holy Grace ability does kind of comp this back to a point, depending on the team lineup. As a mixed parts, I do have to rate her just a little bit higher at about a 7 out of 10, given that even though Tornado and Suction are relatively niche skills that are catastrophic if used correctly, they do require a little bit of setup and some timing if you want to maximize the use of them. That being said, it would honestly, if you are going to use them, some team building around those particular parts will be best recommended and encouraged. And while her float legs means that she does have very solid speed and coverage, you do want to make sure that if you are going to use her legs, you have someone on the team that can offer some buffs and comp those very low stats.